please elaborate the point that, when we have superiority complex, it is said it is egotistical.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, inferiority complex also. And then when things are not going well, or you have had some conflict with people or whatever, you are always kind of, in a way, blaming yourself. Oh, I could have done this, I could have done that. And so I was wondering, first of all, to stop that kind of thing. Whatever is done is done.
Mm.
And then if you can explain why it is egoistic, that may get to the root of the issue.
So an inferiority complex, one in which we see ourselves as less than everybody else, is as much ego as superiority complex, because they both arise from the same fundamental source. Let's first of all look at what we mean by the word ego. The word ego is the belief, not just an intellectual belief, but the subjectively experienced belief that I am this particular body, mind, and intellect, that I am this self, lowercase s. That is the ego.
Right.
From that underlying belief, you then get a distorted image of what that self is in relation to everybody else, or in relation to the environment. So in a superiority complex, someone first of all believes, I am the accomplishments of this body. Okay, what has the body done? Okay, the body has raised a family, written a book, started a business, won the tennis tournament, it has sold the tech business for $1 billion, all these things that the body, mind and intellect has done. I attribute those actions to myself, first of all. That's where the ego part comes in. Where the other aspect of the superiority or inferiority complex comes in is that you make a flawed or a faulty assessment of who and what you are. So, for example, I raise a family and I have beautiful children, and I might develop a superiority complex about that because my kids are, or my family is a better unit than some others that I know. But what that's doing is having a flawed or a distorted understanding of what's going on. It doesn't take into account the fact that there are billions of families across history and yours is just one of them. You treat yourself as a special case. Inferiority complex does exactly the same thing. It's a flawed or a distorted assessment of who and what you are by not taking into account everything around you. There are some who have much less success in this field than I do. I'm better than them. There are some who have greater success in this field than I do, and they are better than me. When you look at yourself accurately, then you don't get this inflated or deflated sense of self-worth. You're just looking at what you are and not taking the next step beyond that. It's just an assessment of who and what you actually are. The complex takes it one step further than that into the involvement in that definition. So it becomes self-limiting. Because you could, for example, say, well, you take someone like, I don't know who it is at the moment, an Elon Musk or a Bill Gates or whoever it is, and say, he could legitimately say, I am the richest person on the planet. That's an accurate assessment. Or you take the number one tennis player in the world. I am the number one tennis player in the world. Or you take the person who's at the bottom of the ATP rankings. You say, I'm the worst tennis player on the ATP rankings. It's a fact. But what you do after that is that you use that one measure and you equate it to your worth as a human being. So that's where it becomes distorted, or perhaps a better way to think about it is incomplete. If you only measure yourself by your ranking on the ATP tennis rankings, then that is how you will view yourself. And as your ranking goes down, your self-worth goes down. This is why, for example, social media can be so toxic. They start to define their personality around popularity. That one metric becomes the proxy or the way of describing or understanding who they are as human beings. If I define my success by popularity, I'm always going to feel unpopular because I can always reach for more. So now someone who has a superiority complex does the exact same thing as the inferiority, is that they take it one step further into that feeling. So the number one tennis player can legitimately say, I'm the number one tennis player, but if they don't use that as a way of defining who they are, then they won't fall into a superiority complex. Yeah, I'm the number one tennis player, but I can't do calculus to save my life. So I could never have been an engineer. I couldn't have built the tennis racket that I use. I'm not a good administrator because I don't follow through on the details. I'm not actually a very good people person either. You know, I'm so focused on my goals that I don't have a chance to connect with other human beings and find out what's important to them. So I'm not really a good people person. Yep, I'm a good tennis player, but all the things that I need to be number one, I can't do. The problem comes from using these very narrow metrics for defining your worth as a human being. So they both really have as their basis this belief, I am this body. And then the successes or failures of the body become mine. Rather than recognizing this body and this personality as something that I have. It's in me, I'm not in it. So that's the understanding of how superiority and inferiority are both as much ego as each other.